Let's talk about being good and doing good according to Henry Thoreau. This distinction is given to us at the very end of chapter 1, Walden, on pages 64 to 70. At the top of page 74, Henry Thoreau offers an objection to what he's told us so far. He's proposed that we might simplify our living, and he's mentioned some mysterious enterprise which he cherishes, and that's conducted in the woods and by the pond. Isn't this just being selfish? Uh, this objection is referred to on page 3 of chapter 1. There, Henry Thoreau says, "Some of my townsmen and women have asked me, what are you doing out in the woods? If you have free time, maybe you should spend some time serving others, serving people in need," Henry Thoreau. That's the objection. Henry Thoreau, we know, was a debater as a young student and possibly as a college student. And a good debater is somebody who considers objections and alternate views to their own. On pages 64 through 70, Henry Thoreau proposes that there are two approaches to being a good person, and he offers his approach, which he calls being good. Here's a definition of being good, not directly from Henry Thoreau, but using our own study in the classroom. Being good is the approach to human goodness based on a task or calling, which is often personal. This idea sounds very much like what we learned from Aristotle in Folio A. According to Aristotle, all human beings as a species have a function or ergon which distinguishes us and which we uniquely can do. That's a lot like Henry Thoreau's proposal in chapter 1 of Walden, that each of us has some task or calling which we can uniquely do, and presumably with virtue. According to Henry Thoreau, being good is just that, me doing my task well for a lifetime. We've seen that Henry Thoreau pursued nature study, and for him this included several different sub-activities like observing and recording, and then writing up a calendar of recordings, and then moreover writing lectures and essays and books to share his results. So that's Henry Thoreau being good, he says. Our author proposes at the end of chapter 1 that there are diverse callings in the world. There's not just one single task that we can all do. Each of us has a unique task or calling, he thinks. So our author doesn't propose that everyone should practice phenology or nature study. Some of us may be called to be architects, or some of us may have a passion about raising a family. Sometimes our author refers to this as my genius. My genius is a kind of inner self that directs me to some activity or way of life. For Henry Thoreau, to pursue my calling may involve simplifying my living. I need to practice some economy and simplify my day-to-day necessaries so that I'll be free to pursue my calling. And our author proposes that pursuing my calling may unintentionally benefit other people. And that's great, but it's not something that I necessarily have to worry about. So Henry Thoreau says that when I'm being good, my goodness transmits to other people like a fragrance or a perfume, something that benefits people very subtly and not necessarily directly. Doing good, by contrast, is the popular approach to being a good person, says Henry Thoreau. Let's hear a definition of doing good. Again, this is my definition based on study in Philosophy 225. Doing good is the approach to human goodness prioritizing serving needy persons and performing duties that our society or community identifies. So Henry Thoreau gives several ordinary examples of doing good, rescuing a person in need of being rescued is perhaps the most important example. Serving the needy by way of nonprofit organizations, and serving perhaps the entire society by philanthropy, by large-scale projects and fundraising. Henry Thoreau's community in Concord and in Boston were people committed to doing good. They believed in helping those in need with shelter and food and clothes. And some of Henry Thoreau's neighbors prodded him and said, I think this is something you should try. What does Henry Thoreau say in response to this very interesting and possibly controversial ideas? So we'll be careful to attribute to Henry Thoreau. Henry Thoreau thinks that for many of us, doing good really just comes down to being conforming. That many of us just simply do good, serving the needy because we want to belong and fit in, and perhaps to please other people. So Henry Thoreau suggests that that's kind of a half-hearted kind of benefiting of others if our large part of our purpose is to conform. In a similar way, Henry Thoreau points out that when we do good for others, it's intentional. We perhaps plan and think about how we're going to benefit somebody, and then we walk over to their house and bring them some gifts or some donations. Well, Henry Thoreau, interestingly, criticizes this activity. He proposes that many times hidden in our intentions are some selfish motives or perhaps fears and doubts. And these hidden motives diminish the benefit that we bring to other people. There's a nice joke there where Henry Thoreau says, if somebody came to my house to benefit me, I would jump out the window and run away. On a more positive note, Henry Thoreau thinks that some people do have a calling for doing good. So by doing good, they're also being good. Our author says he made some effort at doing good, and he found it wasn't his calling. In fact, he tells us that people refused his offers. Our next author, not this coming week, but the week after, Louisa May Alcott, who was a student of Henry Thoreau and a neighbor and friend of Henry Thoreau, will champion doing good as an important activity for good life.